The ZTE Axon 7 Mini has arrived, and in this video we'll compare it to the Huawei P9 Lite, as both have a screen with 5.2 inch and both have the same recommended retail price of $299, like always here in Germany, Europe, including tax. But the street price here dropped because this one is available since May, 240 roundabout at the moment, and here for the start it's 280 roundabout, let's say $40 more, but this will drop quicker now in the next weeks and months. So I guess a lot of you will stand before the decision, shall I buy the Axon 7 Mini or better the P9 Lite, as both, especially in that gold version, have kind of the same looks. But difference here, you have aluminum unibody, and you feel this here on the Huawei P9 Lite. This is looking like metal, but this isn't. It's like plastic. The only metal here is the frame around the edges, and flat backside, curved backside. So of course this is a question of what you like more. I would prefer always the curved backside, as it's resting better in the palm, for my opinion. But from the weight 154, 146, it's no big deal, especially you have that aluminum. So this is astonishing lightweight here, and both have that fingerprint sensor on the backside. But you see the first difference. You have these stereo speakers here on the front, while the Huawei P9 Lite has just one. It looks like stereo, but this isn't. In the most cases, one is blind, the other is mono. And I know some of you do not listen to much more than ringtones, I know that, but some of you wrote me that they watched videos, for example, here on YouTube, and then stereo front speakers are at least better than mono speakers. Of course, you have the better quality via headphones or Bluetooth speakers, I know that, but in case you do not have this available, this is better, I guess, than mono, at least a little bit. Coming back to the display, I told you 5.2 inch, exactly 132 millimeters both. Both have also the same resolution, 1080 by 1920 pixels. So you have the very same pixel density, very same sharpness of 268 pixels per square millimeter, or 424 ppi. That's 5% above the average. So okay, but no top ranking or something. But you see that difference already here. It's looking very different. That's becoming of the display panel technology below, because this one is a dual domain IPS, so lit from the backside, and this is an AMOLED diamond matrix, so the pixels glow by themselves. That's why this looks like a little bit brighter, and indeed it is. I measured 450 nits in the center here, and here we're talking about 349. So this is brighter, yes, but compared to the average of LCDs, this is 7% below the average, 12% below the average for OLEDs. So both are not the brightest one, and do not think that this one is now the better, because there is more than just brightness and resolution. Because first of all, you have the contrast, and of course OLED has better contrast always, like LCDs. And the second thing I want to show you is here, and that's viewing angle stability, because at some point here on the backside, this one is the Huawei P9 Lite dual domain IPS, you see this point over here where the colors and especially the contrast is glitching, and while you can go up to, let's say, this point 178 degrees or something. So this is way better here for the stability and the contrast. So bottom line, I'd say quality on both is kind of the same, or at least no big difference to build a buying decision onto it. You have on both NFC and you have 4G, but on the ZTE it's up to 300 megabits per second instead of 150. Okay, you have to depend on country and tariff and your location and whatever, but in case you can use it, this one should be a little bit quicker by downloading data. Both support dual-SIM HSPA, NFC, and both don't support Wi-Fi AC and the 5 GHz gigahertz band of Wi-Fi N. That's the same on both, so that's the newer one, the quicker one, but of course Wi-Fi N in 2.4 gigahertz band, both again supporting. But you should maybe know that here on the bottom side, that's USB with the new Type-C, so you can plug in your cable both sides, while the P9 Lite, I told you, coming in May, a little bit before that, so you have the classical micro USB, so this is compatible with all your old stuff, your cables, your chargers, or whatever you might want to use. Here you would need an adapter for this one. Both have Android 6.01. Here it's coming with 6.01. This one is the update already running at the moment. Both are not stock Android, so changed, pretty much, I'd say. So it's both completely different. What I prefer here is that you have the chance, especially for gamers maybe, that you can have blended out this one manually if you want to, while here you can only, or I can show you, this is no big deal, only change the advanced settings. It's, no, not advanced, I'm sorry, smart assistance, navigation bar. So you can, for example, change this one here if you're coming from Samsung, for example, or have a fourth icon, and this one is doing the navigation, the notification center up and down here. So especially in one hand mode, this is a good deal because you do not have to stretch with your thumb from here. So this one is something okay, but I prefer this one, especially because you now have, if you look, for example, at the browser, you have here lost a little bit room space here down there for the navigation, where here net is gross from the display area you can see, if you want to at least. Coming with that to the processor, here it's a Snapdragon 617 and here it's the Kirin 640. So both have 8 cores, but here clock rate is 1.5 and 1.2 gigahertz instead of 2.0 and 1.7 gigahertz. Completely different graphics module, Adreno 405, Mali T830 MP2. Both once more, same RAM, same memory for working memory. It's 3 gigabyte RAM on both. So coming to the results, more than 50 values out of 15 benchmarks. Overall ranking here, it's 23% below the average, rank 61, 12% below the average, rank 52. So both are not the very most powerful ones, but for regular users, I'd say it's kind of the same. Oh, here it's a little bit slower, but let's use something else, for example the browser here, and that's different a little bit, so you won't feel much of that in everyday life, let's call it like that. Or let's go through the settings, have a little bit scrolling here, so you see feeling is kind of the same on both. Nevertheless, in case you have some very powerful apps, graphically advanced games, for example, both won't be that good because you have, like I told you, 12% below, 23% below. This is a little bit better, but not really good. So for regular users, it's okay. But if you are a demanding user or your apps are very demanding, both, I guess, will not be enough from the performance. Yeah, and with that, coming to the battery runtimes. Both cannot be removed. Both are fixed here, of course, aluminum unibody, and here you cannot remove anything too. So it's 2,705 milliamps on the ZTE, and on the right here, this one has 3,000 milliamps. But nevertheless, the results are kind of the same, 404 minutes, 418 minutes. That's 19% below the average, 16% below the average. So both once more not very good. So for heavy users, I wouldn't recommend. So fingers off of this device here. For regular users, I would say if you are, for example, going here, having at least auto mode or maybe at 50% the brightness of the display and do not use GPS all the time, then you might come through the day. But in case you are saying, might be using my phone more through the next 2 years, for example, I would go for something else, I would be honest. So 90% below, 16% below the average, both is not good in battery runtime. But if you're sticking with these twos, I'm tending to this one because you have 16 megapixels camera, 13 megapixels camera, video in full HD on both, but here you have an aperture of f1.9, f2, and especially you have 2 LEDs, white LEDs, 1 white LED, and on the front 7.7 instead of 8 megapixels. Okay, but here you have video only in 720p instead of 1080, but here the aperture is a little bit worse, f2.2, f2.0. So getting a little bit more light here on the front side. So cameras both do not have optical image stabilizer on the front and on the back side either. So I guess camera quality also kind of the same, processor performance of the same, battery runtime kind of the same, the resolution, the screen, the brightness, just AMOLED here is a little bit better, and 16 instead of 13 megapixels camera here is better. So I would go for this one even if this is a little bit more expensive, and especially because here comes the last and for me, most important argument for the ZTE, because let's go here and have a look at these slots. Both have the same concept. These both are, I hope you can see it that way. So here we go. Both have that hybrid slot, meaning this is the first slot for a nano SIM, and here you have the choice between a second nano SIM that way, or here this is a micro SD slot, both up to 128 gigabyte officially. In most cases, you can insert even bigger ones, going with up to 256 gigabyte at the moment. But the internal memory here on the Huawei is 16 gigabyte, leaving net 7.9 gigabyte free. So let's say 8 gigabyte. And here it's 32 gigabyte, leaving net 21.1. 21 gigabyte net. So I would of course go for this one because 8 gigabyte, this is not too much nowadays, even if you have that slot, and especially if you go for dual SIM, this one is the only choice, because if you cannot expand your memory and have 8 gigabyte only, this is, at least for me, it would be worth these $40 more. So this is the most important difference for me, stereo speakers and 32 instead of 16 gigabyte. The rest is kind of the same, but be aware once more, think very carefully through if the battery run times, once more 16% below the average, is okay for you and will bring you through the day. At least one last word coming to the final reviews, like always, as text on my website mobiwatch.net, but give me about a week or two for this one here. Take care of you, and please be so kind to recommend my channel, to vote for this video, and leave your opinions in the comments. Thanks for that in advance. Take care and bye.